actually, Marshall, can you be over here?
Yes.
I think looks good.
Great.
All right. First of all, can you all hear me okay? Excellent. Well, good morning, everybody. Thank you for being here today. I'm Attorney General Josh Call, and I'm joined today by a variety of folks, but including DOJ Internet Crimes Against Children Task Force Commander Jesse Crow, Marshall Ogren with the Wisconsin Statewide Intelligence Center, Green Bay Police Chief Chris Davis, Chris Collar, who's the Safety and Security Manager at the Green Bay Area Public School District, as well as Jamie and Jared Weigelt, family members of Landon Weigelt. Trish, did I mention you, Trish?
Not yet.
Trish Kilpin, the director of our Office of School Safety, is here as well. I skipped over your name. Sorry about that. So thank you all for being here. We're here today to talk about an important topic, which is digital safety as students around the state are getting back to school and beginning the 2025 to 2026 school year. Now, at the Wisconsin Department of Justice, our Division of Criminal Investigation and our Office of School Safety both work diligently to ensure that kids across the state of Wisconsin are safe. We all live in a digital world. This is a very different world than the one that I grew up in, frankly. And it's really important that parents are aware of the dangers online and they know how to navigate those dangers. When I was a kid growing up in Wisconsin, we would hear about looking both ways before you cross the street. You'd hear about not talking to strangers. We did tornado drills in school. Kids growing up today are growing up in a very different environment. And a lot of their lives are spent online, just as all of ours are. And knowing how to stay safe online is a critical part of staying safe in today's environment. Now, each year we're seeing more and more reports of children being exploited online. The Wisconsin Department of Justice and local law enforcement work hard to combat those threats. And one of the ways we want to do that is by raising awareness of these threats so that parents and educators and students are aware of the dangers that are out there. Now, current online threats include cyberbullying, exposure to child sexual abuse material or CSAM, and even contact from adults who are looking to obtain CSAM from children. One of the more significant threats that children are facing right now that we want to highlight today is sextortion. That's a form of sexual exploitation where the offender threatens to release compromising material of the victim unless the victim sends other material or other information, whether it's money or other things, to the perpetrator. And sextortion has led to tragic consequences for victims. That includes mental health crises and even suicide. I want to highlight, by the way, that today is World Suicide Prevention Day. And today is meant to raise awareness around the world about this issue and about the fact that suicide can be prevented. Now, sextortion cases have been on the rise both in Wisconsin and across the country. So far this year, the Wisconsin ICAC Task Force, which is led by DCI, has received approximately 400 cyber tips related to sextortion. That's up from 230 cyber tips in 2024, and it's up from about 170 that were received in 2023. Again, that's 400 this year so far, and it's still only September. Now, those numbers don't include reports that are made directly to local law enforcement agencies, so we expect that the total numbers are higher throughout the state of Wisconsin. What's important for teens who could be the victims of sextortion to know is that this is not their fault, and it's never too late to get help from a trusted adult or parent. Sextortion is a crime committed by perpetrators. It is their fault that these crimes are being committed. And as a new school year gets underway, it's a good time for parents to talk with their kids about what healthy relationships look like and to address topics like consent, sexting, and cyberbullying. Discussing characteristics of a healthy relationship can help protect kids from victimization, both online and offline, by giving them tools to identify potentially unsafe or unhealthy relationships and to reach out for help if it's needed. It's also important for parents to talk to their kids about how to be good digital citizens. Teaching kids to stand up for others by reporting unkind and inappropriate behavior online can both empower kids to stand up for themselves, and it can help them protect other kids stay safe when they're online. Now, any concerns that children or other community members have can always be made and reported to the Office of School Safety's Speak Up, Speak Out tip line. It's available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And reports to SUSO can be made at speakup.widoj.gov by phone or by text, as well as in the SUSO app. And exact SUSO contact information can be found in the press release that's handed out today. Contacting local law enforcement is always an option as well. And then last, I just want to say to parents out there, as a parent myself, I know and people know that technology is evolving, that the apps that kids use are things that may be unfamiliar to parents. But there are people out there who are experts in these topics who want to help, who want to support your efforts to have conversations with your kids about how they can stay safe online. And whether that's contacting Speak Up, Speak Out, or getting information online about keeping kids safe that's provided by any of a number of different organizations. Folks here can get you information that you can point to. Learning that information, gathering it, and talking to your kids is a key to keeping kids safe. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to ICAC Commander Jesse Crow.
Good morning, everybody. Thank you for being here. This is a really important part of what we do as outreach at the ICAC Task Force. So Wisconsin is one of 61 task forces around the country. Our task force currently has over 330 affiliate agencies like Green Bay Police Department, De Pere, Ashwaubenon, Brown County. Those affiliate agencies are the backbone of what we do in the ICAC program. Without them, we would not be successful. So I just want to talk a little bit about sextortion and really what we're doing with it. The Attorney General announced, our numbers have been increasing a lot over the years. So we get our cyber tips, or these tips, from the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children. Once we receive them, we have a group of analysts that go through them. All of our sextortion tips come in a form of escalation, so they come to us in a more expedited manner from NCMEC. Once we get those, they're analyzed, and those are sent out to local law enforcement, whether they're an affiliate agency or not, because we want to get resources to the victims and the families that are involved. Most of the cyber tips we get on sextortion are victim-based here in Wisconsin, where the victim has either been found on the platform or is reporting it directly to the National Center. So we have a couple things that we do. We make sure local law enforcement makes contact with the child and the family or the responsible adult in their life. We have a crime victim services part of DCI, which is embedded in our ICAC task force. We loop them in with the local law enforcement agency to see if they need resources. And then if there is possibility of doing a further investigation, we do that as well. Attorney General said it's really important that kids understand that it is not their fault, that they are victims of crimes and they cannot be charged for the images that they shared that lead to the sextortion. And that's one of the big sales pitches that these sextorters use, is that they tell the children that they're going to be sex offenders. They're going to be arrested for that when they actually can't be. So we have two campaigns that we're doing right now. It's an anti-sextortion one. The first one is a poster campaign. It is meant to provide support to anybody that may need services or may need help with this. There is examples over there that you can take on your way out. And then we also have a resource card. It's a little plastic card that goes into phone cases and in wallets. And it's an emergency resource card if children, victims, families need those resources. It has a 988 number and the direct information that goes to the NCMEC's cyber tip line. Parents can get resources at the cybertipline.com. They can do a search for NetSmarts, so it's NETSMARTZ. It's NCMEC's outreach and education program they have. They can also sign up for our community newsletter. There's a QR code over there on a little poster that goes directly to our sign up for our community newsletter that we push out to anybody in the community that wants information about new apps, new information about what's trending out there. It's a monthly newsletter, and it's all free of charge. So with that, I'm going to turn this over to Trish Gilpin. Thank you.
Great, thank you. As we approach the start of a new school year, we all want our children to be able to be focused on academics, on their activities, on their positive social relationships. Kids, when they feel secure and safe and confident, and they don't have to have stressors and worries as big as the ones we're talking about today, will be best able to learn. I recognize that in this digital world that kids do have unique stressors, and we collectively need to approach that as best we can to provide the services and support that is needed to help them overcome challenges that they may face. As when kids are exposed to sextortion and other digital harassment and bullying and things of that nature, they can feel very alone. And so we have multiple ways that they can get help and support. We hope that kids go to a trusted adult, their families, their parents, their school community, their school counselor, their coach, whoever it may be that they're comfortable with. But we also recognize that at different times of the day and night, those adults might not be available. And so we have SUSO. And SUSO is Speak Up, Speak Out Wisconsin. We've received over 17,000 tips to SUSO, and we staff that with trained analysts 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. We need to make sure that we're responsive in real times when we get these small windows for help, requests for help, that when kids are ready to trust us with whatever it is that they're facing. I also want to put a short pitch out there to other students. If you know that a student is struggling, they deserve help and support, and we encourage you to report that to a trusted adult or to SUSO to get them what they need. We are proud partners with the Green Bay area schools in terms of school safety and their forward-thinking approach to that, and with the Green Bay Police Department. And I'll turn it over to the chief here to be able to talk to you about some of their efforts.
Thank you. Thank you, and good morning, everybody. And I would just add my voice to what we've already heard this morning. You know, obviously in our organization, we take reports of cyber harassment and online exploitation very seriously. Our officers assess solvability factors, and we work closely with our partner agencies, certainly in our local ICAC effort with the Brown County Sheriff's Office and DCI and other partners. And we, since 2016, the Wisconsin Department of Justice ICAC, or Internet Crimes Against Children Task Force, has assigned 340 cyber tips to the Green Bay Police Department that were reported from the National Center of Missing and Exploited Children. With this information, we work together to collect information such as IP addresses, phone numbers, social media usernames, email addresses, times, dates of uploads, obviously images and video of suspected child abuse that may be needed for an investigation. And this collaboration stretches beyond our department with assistance from the Brown County Sheriff's Office, Ashwaubenon Public Safety, De Pere Police, Hobart Lawrence, and the Oneida Nation Police Department. We have executed over 100 search warrants over the last 9 years based on information provided by these cyber tips. So when you send us that tip information, we take it seriously, and you can see the results in terms of victims' lives changed as a result of those tips. So it really is valuable to us. You know, as police agencies across the country have seen a sharp rise in cases where children and teens are coerced into sending explicit images to online predators, it's important to note that this crime can affect anyone, regardless of your gender, your age, or your background. We urge families to report any suspicious or inappropriate online behavior directly to your local police department. Call us and let us help put an immediate end to this exploitation of our kids. To parents, our message to you is, and you hear me say this all the time, if you live here locally, know where your kids are, who they're talking to, and what they're doing, and this includes online. Be present in your kids' online world, and it's especially for people my age, it's going to be a stretch to learn some new online skills because that's constantly changing, but it's worth the effort. Ask questions and just feel comfortable and empowered having real conversations with your kids about these issues. At the Davis household, we have these conversations regularly, and it helps, I think, keep our kids out of trouble, and it empowers them to know what they can do if they're subjected to any of this or they see anything suspicious directed at them online. And to kids, you're not alone. If something feels wrong or something scary, or you have a conversation with somebody online, if you're on that online gaming platform and you start getting those weird messages from somebody you don't know, talk to someone you can trust. Talk to your parents, talk to us, your school resource officers, talk to someone, because you have a whole community of people who care about you, and we're here to help you. We also recognize that healing and protection, when these cases do happen, go beyond the scope of policing, and we're committed to connecting not only survivors of this abuse, but their family and others impacted to trusted community resources that go beyond the badge to offer support and recovery and hope for the future. So with that, I will turn it over to our friend Chris Collar from the Green Bay Public Schools.
Thank you. I just want to highlight that the partnership that we have with the Office of School Safety is a very strong one. We do encourage our staff and our students to use the Speak Up, Speak Out platform as needed to report any anonymous or things that they feel that they need to share with someone in the building. We do encourage our students to, find a trusted adult, but there's just some things that they, maybe don't feel comfortable reporting themselves. So we have the Speak Up, Speak Out platform available to all of our students on their ClassLink Launchpad. As far as internet safety or cybersecurity, we do have our library media specialists work with our students and provide some lessons on how to be on the internet safely. We provide information to our families via our website, along with having our school resource officers provide some presentations to our elementary schools. And then lastly, we do have done some recent community outreaches where we brought in groups of family members to get some education on some cybersecurity tips and things to be aware of for their children, and understanding the different apps and things that they may be on and what they're used for. So we like to make sure that we're doing everything we can to keep our kids as safe as possible by reminding them that safely using the internet is a great tool, but we have to make sure that we're protecting them as well, and that if there are things that they're uncomfortable with, that they can always come and tell somebody, whether it be in person or anonymously by using the Speak Up, Speak Out app. I will turn over to the family of Langdon Weigel.
Thank you. My name is Jamie. I'm Landon's bonus mom. This is Jared, my husband, Landon's dad. I just want to start out with saying that a lot of the stuff that you're going to hear in my little speech you've already heard, but we feel that it's very important that everybody knows. Today I want to take a brief moment to talk about someone incredibly special, Landon Weigel. Landon was a bright, kind-hearted 17-year-old with a love for football, basketball, his friends, his family, and big dreams for the future. Like so many young people, his journey was only beginning, and the road ahead held nothing but promise. He had a goal of one day becoming a counselor, someone who would help others through life's hardest challenges. But on February 7th, 2023, Landon's life was tragically cut short when he fell victim to sextortion via Snapchat. In the wake of this heartbreaking loss, our family made a promise that Landon's story wouldn't end here. We vowed to speak his name, share his truth, and fight to protect others in his memory. We launched the LW35 Foundation to carry forward that mission. Created in memory of Landon and his deep commitment to helping others, this organization supports students as they take their next steps towards the future and contributes to a range of causes that matter deeply to our community. As part of our work, we've also developed an educational presentation series called Landon's Lesson. These presentations focus on raising awareness and educating about the dangers of sextortion, what it is, how it happens, and most importantly, what to do if you or someone you know becomes a victim. The goal is to equip students, families, and educators with the tools and knowledge they need to stay safe and speak up. Our goal through the LW35 Foundation is simple but powerful: to carry forward Landon's legacy by educating, supporting, and protecting others. Through awareness, action, and compassion, we're working to turn loss into purpose and to build a future where fewer families face the kind of heartbreak we've endured. To anyone who finds themselves in this situation, please hear this clearly. You are the victim. You are not in trouble. Asking for help can be scary, but speaking up is an act of bravery that can protect not only you, but others as well. If someone comes to you and says they're in trouble, believe them, support them, don't ask why, just be there. That kind of support can save lives. Through sharing Landon's story, we are committed to creating a safer, more informed, and more compassionate future, one where young people are protected, heard, and never left to navigate these situations alone. Parents, I encourage you, take the time to go through your children's phones with them, not to invade their privacy, but to open a conversation. Ask questions, be curious, not critical. Let them know that you're not just watching over them, you're walking with them. Most importantly, make sure they understand that there is nothing so serious, so scary, or so shameful that they can't come to you for help. You are their safe place, and sometimes just knowing that can make all the difference. In the end, your life and your voice matter. You deserve to be heard, supported, and protected no matter what you're going through. There is no mistake too big, no situation too dark, and no fear too overwhelming that should ever make you feel like you have to go through it alone. Help is always closer than it seems, and there are people who will stand by you without judgment, without conditions, and without hesitation. Every person deserves to know that they are valued, that their pain is valid, and that asking for help is not weakness, it's strength. Speaking up takes courage, but it can be the first step toward healing, safety, and hope. We want every person to know you are not alone. You are not invisible. You are not to blame. Your story matters. Your future matters. And most of all, you matter. And with that, I'll turn it back to the Attorney General.
Great. Well, thank you to everybody who's here raising awareness about this important issue. Thank you in particular to all of you who are joining us up here. With that, I'm happy to open it up for questions.
I have a question for Commander Crow. I know you guys have mentioned a couple of times, the increase in recent years in the number of cyber tips that you've been receiving related to this topic. Is that something that you see as sex extortion is happening more, or it's being caught more, or kind of like a mix of the two, I guess?
It's likely a mix of the two. There's better ways to catch them online with the companies. There's more awareness out there, so we're getting a lot more reports from individuals instead of companies. So it's a big mixture of it.
Yeah, I'll just add, the first ICAC task forces in the country were created in 1998, and while that's not that recent anymore, it's still only 27 years ago. And now we in Wisconsin have received over 11,000 tips in a single year. And so, we talked about the shift of people's lives online, and one of the places that's having a big impact is on people's safety. And so when it comes to combating crime and raising awareness about where wrongdoing can happen, making sure the public knows that can happen online and that we've got resources so that when a state agency like the Department of Justice works with local law enforcement or works with federal law enforcement or whoever else, we've got resources in place to keep people safe where they are, and one of those places is online.
For anybody that's a parent, I know that for kids, they can feel a little bit of shame when it comes to something like this, or they may feel like they can't really turn to anybody that's an adult, maybe going to a friend. But when it comes to finding that bridge to be able to let them speak out, what would you recommend just from a parent's perspective, anybody who just, how you get them to speak out?
I guess we need to build a culture of help seeking to normalize that for our kids. And sometimes it's hard for kids to admit, even to their families, that they're struggling because they want to please us. They want us to be consistent with the image that we have of them, and they're ever evolving. So we have to be able to be more approachable about topics that are hard, and that's challenging for parents. Another part of the solution are peers. Peers often know that their friend is struggling, and sometimes their friend will say, you have to keep this secret. You can't tell anyone because they'll make it worse. And we need to break that code of silence, and we need to make sure we're building those bridges. So talking to a trusted adult, always talking to their family, always talking to somebody at school, or go through Speak Up, Speak Out, and let someone know that someone's in need of care and support.
And just to follow up on that, I know that when it comes to, for a lot of kids, they probably think online, this person, you probably don't know who they are. How are they supposed to be called? How is anything actually supposed to be done for that? So for any kid that may be watching this or seeing this, what would you say to them to be like, we can actually put in some effort into making sure that you're not in harm's way, and we can actually take care of this situation and solve that issue?
First, that child needs support, and we provide that with immediacy when they contact SUSO. But then we also have the investigative piece, and I'll ask.
Sure. Yes, the investigative piece, there are a lot of actors that are not in the United States. Those are difficult cases to work. Trish really hit it on the head there, is that we really need to take care of the victims and the families, and that's our first priority when we get sextortion tips, when we have victimization here. And then we can make sure that they're safe and then work the investigative side of it at least. But it's that continued support for them. Legal process, if it's not in Wisconsin, the suspect's not here, referring it out to one of the other 61 ICAC task forces that are out there, working with all of our partners. It's a large effort of collaboration with these cases for sure.
I'll just add quickly on that. it's important for not just parents, but for educators, for adults in positions of responsibility, to understand that these topics are, whether you talk about them or not, they're happening. I just mentioned there are over 400 cases right now. So it's important that there be open lines of communication with kids, age appropriate, of course, but for schools, for others who are informing kids about how to stay safe. Like I talked about, none of us would hesitate. When I was growing up, nobody would hesitate to talk to you about looking both ways before you cross the street, or about not talking to strangers. And likewise, we need to make sure that kids are empowered, because kids have questions. They want to know what's happening. And the more that there's a dialogue and that these are topics that they feel comfortable talking about, but also that they know they can talk to parents and teachers and coaches and principals and other trusted adults about, the more opportunities they have to have those conversations, the more likely information is going to get into the hands of somebody who can take action.
A question for the school district and or the police department in regard to student safety, in light of the incident at Preble High School yesterday in which a student was arrested and a firearm was found on campus. What practices are in place to maybe mitigate those risks at the moment? And in light of that case in the beginning of the school year, is there any discussion moving forward about, ways to prevent incidents like that from happening in the future?
At this point, that's not a conversation that we're willing to have regarding that situation. We're here to speak about cybersecurity and cybercrime today, so we'll save that for another time.
I think, from our perspective, obviously, the specific incident, I can't really get into the details of right now because it's an ongoing investigation that involves a group of people. We are fortunate, though, that we have a very good relationship with Green Bay Area Public Schools when it comes to school safety. We have a very robust school resource officer program, and one of the reasons why we have that program is, in the case of something like this, that we certainly don't want that to happen, but we need to be prepared for it. We've had some great conversations already, even earlier this morning with Green Bay Area Public Schools, and obviously we take anything like that extremely seriously, and I think look for, it's early right now, and we're trying to make sure whatever we do going forward and however we evolve the way we provide safety service in our schools is done in a way that recognizes the school district's mission is to educate our kids, and so we want to make sure we're doing the right things to address these issues. But more conversation, obviously, to come about that incident.
Has there been any communication with students or parents?
There has, I think, mostly from the schools. We've put out our own information publicly through the media, but I defer to the schools on any specific communication there.
As a quick follow-up to Davis, I know that the police department had additional presence at Preble High School today. How long do you guys plan to have extra officers there?
The short answer to your question is as long as it's necessary. And again, what we want to do when we have extra presence at a school after something like this is not just have it be, police officers with their arms folded and watching everyone, but maybe some engagement too with kids, so that they can feel comfortable that we're not there to scrutinize them so much as we're just there to keep everybody safe. But we'll do that as long as we need to make sure everybody can feel comfortable.
Yeah. And then I had one more question, really back to the cybersecurity issue. I know, obviously, we talk about a lot of times this comes from messages from people you may not know on online platforms. I'm assuming that those messages don't start straight out with asking for the sexually explicit images. What are some of the warning signs that teenagers or children should look for, and kind of how that relationship might start?
Yeah, so it's really that rapport building by the suspects. So they get to get the child in a trusted environment. They typically send compromised images of themselves first to break that comfortness. They get them to switch to more secret platforms. So I think those cold introductions, just all of a sudden you get a request and they want to be your friend right now, and then they want to move you to a different platform. That's really a big warning sign to us when we see that, and that's pretty consistent with the cases that we see across the board with that. So,
just to kind of follow up to that, what are platforms like? Is there a list of platforms that you notice that are like the highest that you've seen a lot of activity like this on? Or what platforms, you said they go off to private places, what are those platforms?
So it's anywhere that you can have that communication. So there is apps that you can't communicate with individuals on, but any application, any mobile application, any website that you can actually communicate with another individual, all those could be used for this. When we talk about more of the secret apps, it's more of the end-to-end encryption apps, the apps that are strictly for just communicating. It's not maybe a game or social media. To list them all, I don't want to single anyone out because there's so many that we encounter, and there's also, we're encountering new apps almost on a weekly basis that are out there that we're seeing that all of a sudden we're identifying victims from those new platforms that we didn't even know about. And so keeping up with that technology is also a huge part of what we do. But unfortunately, technology is always going to be a little bit ahead of us in what we do. So.
Super tiny, just to follow up with that. Is there any apps that like stand out to you that are just like, okay, this is what I see recurring a lot?
Yeah. I would say that I really don't want to single one out on that specifically, just because there are so many we're seeing. So.
And it's really not the app itself, right? It's the behavior of those utilizing it, engaging in conversations, and taking advantage of vulnerable youth.
I think we've got time for, if you both have one, we can do those. Okay, quickly.
Yeah.
Sorry.
While you're standing there at the
Yeah.
podium, are you planning on running for governor in Wisconsin?
Today my focus is just on the topic we're discussing, online safety.
Speaking of online safety, really quickly, when it comes to perpetrators, is it usually, adults that are, contacting children, or, are there oftentimes even maybe, children on children situations where, maybe an older child with a younger child, teens in high school, things like that? What are kind of the trends that you're seeing with people taking advantage of youth?
Yeah, so a majority of our suspects appear to be adults. It is a mix of U.S.-based suspects, more international suspects. There is incidents where there are juveniles being the suspects in this to obtain it. It's not necessarily for financial purposes with juveniles. It may be for imagery, maybe for contact, but it does go both ways. There's multiple ways sextortion happens. It's for the imagery, it's for contact, and it's for financial reasons. And all adult and juvenile suspects do all three of those type of actions.
Great. Thanks, everyone.
I also just had a follow-up question too. Sorry, just for.
So it's all the time we have.
But-
Sorry.
Thank you.
Joshua?
Can I grab a really quick picture? Oh, sure. If you're comfortable, would you like to be in the picture?
I should not.
1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3.